Christmas morning had a particular quiet before anyone spoke, the kind that pretended to be peaceful but was really just waiting for cues. The tree lights blinked like they were unsure of themselves. My mother smoothed the wrapping paper with both hands, careful, reverent. My father stood behind the couch, already smiling, the smile he wore when he was about to explain something. My sister sat closest to them. She always did. Proximity had become a habit long before it became a message. They handed her a small box first. Inside it was a key, plain, silver. The sort you'd lose in a coat pocket if it didn't matter so much. My mother clasped her hands together and said it out loud, as if generosity needed narration. "Wood bought you a house." My sister laughed, then cried. The room filled with the right sounds. My father looked at me, already anticipating the question I wouldn't ask. "You'll understand someday," he said kindly. Final, I nodded. That had always been my part. Understanding was something I did privately. There wasn't a flashback montage. No mental reel of childhood slights. It was subtler than that. A tightening behind my ribs. A familiar kind, what I'd done right, what I'd done quietly. What I'd never made visible enough to be rewarded. I folded the feeling away. I had learned early that feelings, when displayed, were interpreted as requests. They turned to me then, almost relieved. My mother reached for my gift, lighter, thinner. It made the right noise when she shook it, paper against paper. Symbolic. I was ready for a book. Or a watch. Something thoughtful, manageable. Something that said, "We see you," without saying, "We owe you." "Open it," my father said. I didn't. I passed it to him instead. "You can." That surprised him. He laughed, took it. The laugh was muscle memory. He tore the paper cleanly, too quickly. Inside was a folder. The kind you get at offices that smell like toner and lemon cleaner. He opened it standing up. He didn't sit back down. The smile didn't fall dramatically. It stalled. It stayed in place a moment longer than it should have. Then failed, like a word you realize halfway, there doesn't mean what you thought. My mother leaned forward. My sister stopped wiping her eyes. Inside were documents. Not sentimental. Not metaphorical. Deed transfer papers. A stamped letter from the county assessor. A notarized affidavit. Everything aligned, official, already processed. The address was printed in block letters. My name beneath it. My father flipped a page, then another. He cleared his throat once. The room seemed to notice. "What is this?" he asked, softly. "A house," I said. I kept my voice level. "It's already closed." He looked up at me then, really looked, as if checking for a punchline. There wasn't one. The authority in those papers wasn't loud, but it was complete. It didn't need his approval. It didn't ask for his understanding. "When did you?" My mother started, then stopped. She touched the edge of the folder, then withdrew her hand. Like it might shock her. "Last year," I said. I didn't want to make it a thing. Silence stretched. Not the cozy kind. The kind that asks who is in charge now, and doesn't get an immediate answer. My sister glanced between us. Her key felt heavier in her hand. Not smaller, just different. The story it told had changed. My father sat down slowly. He reread the first page as if repetition might alter it. "You didn't tell us." "No," I said. I didn't. There was a version of this moment where I explained myself. Where I listed years of saving. Of choices made with an eye toward distance and stability. Where I pointed out how often my accomplishments had been received with nods instead of celebration. That version stayed where it belonged, in my head. My father closed the folder. His voice when he spoke had shifted declarative. "Why now? It's Christmas," I said. "You were giving houses." It wasn't said sharply. It wasn't said sweetly either. It landed and stayed. My mother went to the kitchen, came back with nothing. She sat beside my father. They looked older in that moment. Not diminished, just suddenly aware of a life that had been happening without their oversight. "Well," my father said after a while. "That's impressive." It was the closest he came to apology. It was enough. We finished opening gifts. The rhythm didn't return, but we went through the motions. Coffee cooled in mugs. The tree lights blinked. No one mentioned someday again. Later, as coats were gathered and goodbyes arranged, my mother pulled me aside. "We didn't know," she said again. "I know," I said. In the car, alone, I sat with the engine off for a minute longer than necessary. There was no surge of triumph. No satisfaction in the quiet confusion I'd left behind. Just alignment. The feeling of standing fully inside my own life without asking anyone to witness it. The house wasn't leverage in the way people imagine leverage. It wasn't a weapon. It was proof of continuity, of effort didn't depend on comparison. The power in it was quiet. And it would remain so. At future gatherings, things would be different. Questions would be more careful. Assumptions less confident. My sister and I would orbit each other with a new awareness. Neither elevated nor diminished, just separate. And I would still be understanding. Just no longer waiting.